Hey guys, welcome to my Friday night show. I think I call it Hillbilly Wrap-Up. I think I'm going to change that name. That's kind of, Sasha always said, that's the kind of a cringe name. I think it is. I think I'm just going to go back to the Ramsey Paul show. Welcome. It's great to be here. Today is June 6th, Friday. I hope you guys all had a great week and looking forward to a great weekend. June 6th is D-Day. This was a significant date for my grandparents. It's interesting how, as you get older, the generations you knew, they all died off. My grandparents are all dead. My parents are dead. So it's your connection to the past is kind of gone. But when I was a kid, I knew I spent a lot of times with my grandparents. And D-Day was just, the June 6th, D-Day. It's when we invaded France to liberate France from the evil Nazis. And that resonated with them their whole life. Although it was interesting, there's been kind of a switch because the people that actually lived through World War II, they hated the Japanese by far more than the Germans. When my grandparents went through the war, and even after the war, the whole Holocaust thing really didn't start till the late 70s. It's when when that narrative gained a lot of traction. So until then, it was really the Japanese were the evil ones because they attacked us at Pearl Harbor. That's also was another big date that they remembered. And the Japanese treated our prisoners our men that were taken prisoner very cruelly. And they did horrible executions and so forth. Whereas the Germans, they actually followed the Geneva Conventions. That's one thing Hitler did. He definitely followed the rules of warfare. People don't like to hear that, but it's true. And he was a big stickler on that. Like the Germans, they never used gas. I'm sorry, not a Holocaust reference, but at least on the front lines, they never used gas because that was against the rules of warfare. Probably also because Hitler, I think, was gassed twice in World War I. He was a soldier. He was actually a very brave soldier. He won some medals and he was injured during the war. But yeah, D-Day really struck a chord with a lot of the older Americans, and it sort of signified a new world because after World War II, I would say we went through a fundamental change in America. I think we've had these various fundamental changes in our history. The Revolutionary War obviously was a big one. But then we had a big change, Gettysburg. After the Gettysburg, our country fundamentally changed. The nature of our country. We got a big federal government. We had fewer states' rights. And then I would say after World War II, and that era, I think we're coming to an end fairly soon. I think within 10, 15 years, we're going to see another reset. But since about 1945 up to now, and again, it's going to be fading away soon, I think. We've been in the post-World War II, the American mythology. We were the good guys, and we're here to spread goodness and God and liberty across the world. Now we've become very degenerate and perverted, but originally that was our idea. And you still have that feeling a lot of people have about America, that we're the good guys, that persist. And I really think that really started after World War II to a big degree because of the narrative. It was a false narrative that Germany wanted to take over the world. That was never true. But that they really believed that, and they thought God had like destiny to lead the world to freedom. And especially after World War II, we went into the Cold War with the fight against communism, and we were like the beacon of light fighting against that. But looking back, the whole D-Day thing, I don't know if countries really, it'd be an interesting thought experiment. What would a Britain look like now if the Nazis would have won? And by winning, I don't think Hitler would have never, even if he won, victory, I would have said for Germany was they got a peace treaty with Britain and America stayed out of the war and Russia was defeated and partitioned up. I think Ukraine would have been a separate country sooner, and they probably would have had a government sympathetic towards the Nazis. And France, it wouldn't have been controlled by Germany, but it'd have a country that's sympathetic. And I think England would have been neutral. But it's kind of an interesting thought experiment what would have happened. I think we still would have had a Cold War, but it would have been, instead of with the Soviet Union, it would be the United States with Germany. Just because a lot of the Jewish people, they would have fled Germany, came to the United States. So there would have been that issue. It's an interesting thought experiment, but now you see the Western countries are in such terminal decline. I don't know if they're really in a better position. But our grandparents, or at least my grandparents, they really believed in that sort of thing. And, a lot of brave men, that's for sure. And they were men. And so, yeah, this is D-Day, January 6th. And thank you for being here. And it's I call it the Hillbilly Wrap-Up. I may change the name again. And I got a couple. Usually what I do is if I get $50 as my goal, if I get $50 in my stream, I will do a show on Monday too, a bonus show. And we're already close because I got a couple of Powerchats, and there's a Powerchat link below from a couple of people. Drew gave me $20. Happy birthday, Paul. Here's something for you after a great show on COVID with Z-Man. Have a margarita on me. Thank you. I will. I don't drink much, but I will have a margarita tomorrow. Tomorrow is my birthday. Yes, it is. So thank you for that. And we'll probably go out to get some dinner, Sasha and I and a couple of friends. And I probably will splurge and have a margarita. I do like margaritas every once in a while, so I will probably do that. So thank you, Drew, on that, $20. And for 15, Kim, he's a good supporter from Finland. About your 2035 prediction, you are absolutely correct. Yeah, my 2035 prediction, that was a video I did this week about, and I'll discuss it more in this show. It's not really a political, it wasn't a political video, it's more of just a financial mathematics video. And based on the current trajectory, eventually in the 30s, we're not going to be able to continue. We won't be able to fund the government, and there'll be a crisis, and it either will be hyperinflation or a lot of things will just break. So, and that's not political. That's just how it will happen. And I'm convinced it will happen because neither the Democrats or the Republicans are willing to do anything about it. And there's no mechanism to make that happen because our politicians are controlled by special interest groups. And the trouble with a democracy is people just think short term, like the leaders. That's all they do is think short term. Whereas like a king, that is, a king can think long term for the health of his kingdom. So that's part of the problem of a democracy. The founding fathers realized this, and that's why they made us a republic. They were worried about democracies. And the Greeks understood that. They always said a democracy always leads to eventually tyranny. And I think that's true. So I think we're going to have a big reset like we did at the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, after the end of World War II. And I think we have another one coming sometime between 2030 and 2040. And I've been saying this a long time. There's going to be a big reset. I don't know what it will be, but it'll be fundamentally a different country, just like we were fundamentally different after the Civil War. So, yeah. When the U.S. goes down financially, so does Europe big time. Are you a big fan of AI? Yeah, I do use AI a lot. I have found like the Google search engine, because of all the political bullshit, it doesn't work now half the time. So if you want to find something, I just ask AI and it gives it to me better than, let's say, the Google search engine. So I don't use search engines much anymore. I just use Grok. That's a built-in AI on X, and I use it for tons of stuff. I can't imagine. I just use it all the time now. Anytime I have a question about something, just today, hopefully Sasha's not listening, but I heard one of her cats was kind of hissing, looking out the window. And I said, what the cat's hissing at? And then I saw there was a snake looking into our front window. So I took a photo of the snake and I loaded it to Grok and I said, hey, what kind of snake is it? It's a black rat snake. It's non-venomous. So it wasn't a dangerous snake. And I chased it away. He slithered off. But you could do that now with AI. It's just really great. And the tools they have now with AIs, like why learn a foreign language? It's being a translator is like a waste of time now because they have devices now. Let's say if I had a staff around the world and some people, they spoke Spanish, some spoke German, and some spoke Chinese. I don't have to learn those languages. I can just talk in English and it will automatically, the AI, pick up my language, translate it into Chinese, German, or Russian, or whatever. And then when they speak back, it translates it into English. So I will hear an AI voice kind of doing the translation of what they're saying. So it's groundbreaking. And one of our friends, Brandon, he went to Japan and he didn't bother to learn the language because the signs are in Japanese, but it's no big deal. There's free apps on your like iPhone. He doesn't have an iPhone, but whatever, his smartphone, and it automatically translates the Japanese into English. So you don't have to type it in. You just take the camera, put it on the sign, like a photo, and it translates it in real time. So I'm a big fan of AI, by the way. Yeah, I use it all the time. Did it affect your prediction? Still waiting for some good news from my financial fairy. I hope you get good news, Kim. AI, I don't know. That's another wild card that could throw a lot of people out of work. And a lot of smart people understand that now. I've been saying this. When Andrew Yang first started to talk about this, I said, Andrew Yang's right. And we were kind of ahead of the curve. Everyone, oh, you're a Luddite. You don't understand. Who's going to fix the robots? All the cliches. Now the smart people are like, yeah, we got a problem because pretty soon you're not going to need to sell their labor. So, yeah, I use AI every day now. Dave, $50. Okay. Made the bonus already. Bonus show for the boys in Rumble chat. Happy birthday. Yeah. Okay. Monday we'll be doing a show. And Dave is a real life friend. We get together with him and his wife, and he's one of our best friends here in Arkansas, actually. And thank you so much for Dave. I really do appreciate that. That is good. So we will have our show. I knew we'd meet the goal quick tonight, and we did. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let's just go through some of the stories here. Get into that. All right, I'm going to go over kind of the whole, obviously the Trump, Elon Musk back and forth. And I did my video to my Substack subscribers. If you're not a Substack subscriber, every Friday I do a video just for my supporters on there. So I sign up. I really do appreciate it. Plus you get bonus content. But I did a video about this subject. And I hate how we get this false dichotomy thinking now, or binary thinking. Are you with Team Trump? Are you with Team Elon? And I like both of them. I mean, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. I can't say bad things about Elon because he opened up Twitter. He bought Twitter. And if it wasn't for Elon, I'd probably be banned off X now. X would be real censored out of the wazoo. There wouldn't be monetization. I think he really opened up a lot of stuff. And Elon said he was probably responsible for Trump winning, and that could be true. Because when X started to be free from most censorship, that has spilled over into other areas. Minor things, but like Z-Man and we did our show a couple of weeks ago about COVID. I had no issues with that, whereas just a couple of years prior, I would have. So I think things are changing, and I think Elon has a lot to do with that. And I know Elon has his faults, and he got a lot of his money because of government grants. I get that. But they got into a as the British would say, a fight. or do they call it a row? A row, I think they call it, the Brits. And they got into a fight. And both sides, I can understand it because again, Elon Musk, he wanted to try to cut out a lot of waste in the government, which who doesn't? That's a good thing. I was always cynical or skeptical because this has been tried before. And a lot of the big money items you almost can't touch, like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and defense is huge. So, I mean, you could go after some funny stuff, like I call the one-legged Amazon lesbian funding dance recital, and there all are some of those, and they're funny, and yeah, it's good to cut those out, but that's not where the real money is. And so anyway, Elon had Doge, he was all excited, and that was cool. But what happened is a lot of these cuts were blocked by leftist judges. And so the only way to get them through is in Congress. And Congress and this big and beautiful bill was slow to put them in. I've heard things back and forth. Who knows exactly what's in the bill? It's too big for any human to read. That's another problem we have. But then the bill came out and Elon felt, he finally had enough. And he said that it was an abomination, this bill, because and then again, there's a lot of questions, but it's a huge amount of spending. And we're headed for a disaster unless spending is drastically cut, drastically. But there's, again, really no mechanism to do that because in a democracy, no one wants any cuts. And even just doing minor cuts, like saying, maybe we shouldn't allow illegal aliens, their children, to have sex changes and we have to pay for that. Maybe Medicaid shouldn't pay for illegal alien sex change. But the Democrats started to scream bloody murder, how it's going to kill people, and just stuff like that. It's almost impossible to get rid of. And this is what I do every time they're talking about budget cuts. They're just like, oh, look at all these poor little black babies. They're going to die. Oh, the Republicans are so mean. It happened during Reagan. Reagan didn't even try to cut the budget. He was just trying to cut the increase. Every year it increases. And he was just trying to say, hey, instead of increasing spending by 7%, let's just increase it by 5%. And oh my God, even back in the 80s, all the Democrats screamed bloody murder that Reagan's going to be killing people. It's, this is where we are. And so I think Trump is a very practical man, and I admire that about him. And I think Trump's never been a deficit hawk anyway. And Trump wants to get his stuff in. And there's a lot of good stuff in this bill, like to eliminate tax on tips. That'd be a cool one because you guys give me tips. And what else? A lot of money for border security and helping deport people. So there's good stuff in here. There really is. And yeah, there's stuff I don't like we're increasing the defense spending to $1 trillion. We can't afford that, but we are. And then all the other programs, Medicaid, Medicare, and the rest are going out of control. And so nothing's really being done, or I don't think can be done without a revolution, honestly, until things break. That's the only way it's going. And you have like a dictator or king. It can't be fixed in the current system. It just can't. And I think Trump realizes that on a certain level. So Trump is like, well, what's the best bill that we can get in? Kind of a MAGA bill that will get us what we need now. And yeah, 10, 15 years down the line, we're going to have a crisis. But well, what it's nothing we can do about it because we don't have the political will. And some people I saw online, like Charlie Kirk and others, are saying, oh, yeah, but you got to understand, by kicking illegals off Medicaid, that's going to save money. Yeah, a little, but not enough to make a difference. They're two separate issues. Believe me, I want to kick every illegal out. Every illegal out. Some legal I want out too. I want illegals and illegals out. It'd be millions leaving. I want that. But I'm not naive enough to think, even if we did that, which we aren't going to do, but even if we did that, that's not going to solve the budget problem, right? So it helped, but it's not going to solve it. Instead of the United States collapsing in 2035, maybe we'll make it to 2040. I don't know. It's one of those type of things. So it's not that big of a difference. So Trump is doing it from a practical point of view. Like, okay, here's what we can get in. Let's do this good stuff. And Elon Musk is like kind of spurging out. I mean, Elon's right. He's right. If you do the math, he's right. It's not political, it's math. The country's going to collapse in 10, 15 years. It's math. Because we won't be able to have our obligations, and we're either going to get hyperinflation or just drastic cuts that people can't, and then be riots. The stock market will collapse. Like if we repudiate our debt, then boy, that's it. So he's right, but he felt betrayed that Trump could propose a bill that has so much spending. It's really no different. And I think Elon felt like, well, I bust my butt. I'm now hated by the left. People are attacking my car dealerships. I got to up my security. I'm getting death threats. And I'm doing this to try to cut money, to try to save this country from going bankrupt. And the thanks I get is Trump proposing a bill that just crazy spending still. And so he was frustrated, and he did that X post that it was an abomination, the bill. Now, first of all, Musk probably shouldn't have done that. He could have done it in a more polite way because Trump did bring him on. And Elon probably could have said something like, hey, I really appreciate working for Trump. I thought we made a big difference. But this bill that Trump has, sadly, it doesn't go far enough. I hope in the future we really start to take these things more seriously. He could have said it more diplomatic, but he didn't. And then, Trump, if you're ever familiar with Trump, he's very thin-skinned, and he has an ego, and he gets personally mad when so he was offended that Elon, he probably felt betrayed too, because he brought Elon on. And then Trump responded, which I think really poorly, by the way. I got a lot of flack for this. Donald Trump said the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Well, the problem with this is it's obviously he didn't come up with this post until he got mad at Elon. So you could argue that maybe the subsidies that Elon gets should be cut. And there's an argument to be made it should. I could see that argument. But that needs to be independently made based on the fact that your butt hurt because Elon called your big, beautiful bill an abomination. And I understand as a president, you're human, but you have the office of the presidency. There needs to be some gravitas, meaning some dignity to it. And you have to say, hey, I don't really appreciate what he's saying, but I can't just target him. I got to do what's best for the American people. And this came across like, oh, you're going to criticize my budget bill? Well, fine, I can cut your subsidies. And, that's kind of banana republic type stuff when you go down that road. So that then really started some problems. Elon Musk, he later, I think, removed this post. He said that they have the Dragon spacecraft that SpaceX does. And that's only spacecraft that can get into outer space now for the Americans. NASA is unable to get into outer space because NASA, they've had aggressive DEI. They care more about celebrating pride and Black power and girl bosses than they are on actually doing their mission. So NASA can no longer do anything. So for our astronauts to get to the International Space Station, we rely on Elon Musk. And if Elon Musk decided he's not going to do that anymore, then our astronauts are stranded up there and would have to beg and plead for the Russians to bring them back home because the Russians still can get in outer space, unlike NASA. I think NASA should be shut down. It's a joke. So Elon made that threat, which he later backed away from. And then Elon did something I thought was really poor. and poor taste. And you really shouldn't say something like this unless you have the receipts to back it up. And Elon Musk said, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, and that is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. So, what Elon is implying here, well, they have been released, by the way. A lot of them have been redacted. But Elon's implying that they're hiding a lot of Epstein files because Donald Trump was implicated in there. And let's be honest, what this means, Elon Musk is implying that Donald Trump went to Epstein's island to have sex with underage girls, because that was the whole point of the island. People, when you're that rich, you don't go to the island because they have a good buffet, or you want to go to the beach. There's many places you can do that. It was clear what Epstein was up. It was the people that went there were naive because people like Epstein don't do something like that for free. If anyone's offering you anything for free, you got to be skeptical. And so while Epstein was offering up underage girls for free, it really wasn't free. In my opinion, it was a Mossad op, and they were blackmailing. They were getting photos of people to blackmail, and politicians and business leaders. That was the whole point of it. And Epstein did have Mossad connections tied to Israel. So it's a way to Israel to blackmail our best little ally doing their usual thing, politicians and so forth. So Elon Musk was basically implying here that Donald Trump was a pedophile, and he was going down to the Epstein Island to that. That's a pretty serious allegation, and I don't know how Elon Musk would know that. And Donald Trump, he hasn't been a paragon of virtue or being chaste. He's cheated on his wives and all sorts of things. But Elon Musk is not in a position to throw stones. But the question is, have they been, or has Trump been with underage girls? Well, there's no evidence of that. And Elon Musk needs, I think, if you're going to make this allegation, the question I first have is, well, how do you know this, Elon? Because those FBI files are pretty confidential. And even if he was in Doge, he wouldn't have access to that information. So if you're going to make a claim like that, you better be able to back it up or explain your reasoning. And I haven't seen any evidence for this. And I think Elon just said that to be just because he was mad at Trump and try to associate him as a pedophile, which shame on Elon for that. That was, that wasn't a good thing to do. And then after that, Elon Musk on X, I've noticed, he started to calm down a little bit because people were saying, hey, we hate to see you two fight. You guys should make up and work together or something like that. And Elon was like, yeah, I know. I mean, maybe, he was kind of walking this back a little bit, although he still has that post up. And I don't know. Trump, when asked about it, said Elon's having some problems and he's just ignoring Elon now. And Trump is a guy that he is thin-skinned, and Trump handled this poorly. He didn't have to lash out in public at Elon. Again, that he shouldn't. He's not a contestant on a reality show. I mean, that's cool to do if you're on like The Bachelor or something. You want fake drama, but you're the president. This should be beneath you. But he didn't. I thought Trump handled this poorly, and Elon handled it poorly. So I can kind of understand the reasoning behind both because of the serious nature. And I think both men felt betrayed. All right, so let's take a look at some of this more of the his, in Elon's words about what I think upset him. Let me get back here. Sorry, guys. Test, test, test. Sorry, guys. Uh, hang on here. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I had a problem. Ukrainian drone strike. No, I had a, I don't know, technical problem. My computer froze up. I had to reboot it. So I apologize for that. We will get into this here. Let me go back into, I think I was going to show you this national debt. So we'll get back onto that. But until then, I want to thank you. I already got some more power chats. I want to go through those. So thank you. Louis Barrow found out my grandfather World War II draft card from 1940. He was 32 years old at the time. My grandfather, his son, would have been young for World War II since he was born in 1935. Wow, Louis, my dad was born in 1935. Yeah, my dad remembered Pearl Harbor. He would have been 6 years old, I think. But yeah, it sounds like our parents about the same age and grandparents. Gorilla Hands, happy birthday, Rams. I've been listening to you since 2018. What do you think of this Trump and Musk drama? Oh, thank you for the power chat. I'm just talking about that. Gorilla Hands, happy birthday, Rams. I have been a fan since 2018. So thank you. And Ryan, happy early birthday, Rams. What is the good life advice you could impart after all these years? Cheers. My life advice is I have found, I was just thinking about that today. I think the best moments in life are the small moments, not the major moments, not the major like weddings or fancy vacations or big trips or dances or whatever. Those aren't the best moments. In fact, those are usually stressful moments. The best moments are moments you're with just friends. There's really no expectations. You're having a nice dinner. Maybe you get together with coffee and you're all just talking. Those are the best moments in life, not the small stuff, not the huge stuff. Because the huge stuff, it gives you an excitement for a while, but then, you buy a house, that's fun, but then you got to maintain it. Then it just never ends. And a lot of stuff like that. Or if you do a big vacation, yeah, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't, that's not really where life is that I found. So enjoy the small things. They are probably the best stuff around. All right. Then thank you guys so much for this. Okay. So we're going to take a look at Elon Musk talking about the debt here.
I can't believe I'm here doing this. It's kind of bizarre, but I kind of think that we've got this enormous federal budget deficit, and it's a $2 trillion deficit. It keeps growing. Our interest payments are higher than our Defense Department budget. That's I think was the real wake-up call for me, was looking at seeing that the interest payments to national debt exceeded the Defense Department budget. And that was only growing over time, which meant if we didn't do something about this, then there won't be any money for anything. We'll just be servicing debt.
And you know how to read an income statement, and you know how to read a balance sheet. You've had some business experience. I'm kidding, but
yeah,
you know about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other business?
So this was prior. He just recently retweeted that. So that was his big reason for being part of that. And let's take another look. This is Scott Jennings. He was commenting on this feud or this blow up. So let's take a look at this here.
Abby.
Is that a bag for you to breathe into?
No, this is what.
Okay.
I'll be pouring this in my Newsnight mug tonight.
Oh, Lord.
Pepto-Bismol is what we all need here in the Republican Party.
I thought it was some Jack Daniels.
They might need that too.
All right. That's pretty cringe. I haven't watched this before, but that's kind of cringe.
First of all, I just want to, I know that we have our differences here sometimes, but if you could give me a little dispensation for the next hour and not beat me to death. Look, here's the deal. The goals.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to defend either of these men. You could just tell us.
And here's the problem.
What you think
here's the problem. They both have a point. Trump's agenda is in the bill, and he wants to pass it. That's his point. Musk is not wrong about the national debt, and he deeply cares about this, and that's his point. So their goals are not mutually exclusive, which is, I think, the rub. And for all these Republicans out here who, like me, have really enjoyed this coalition, this partnership. I mean, I firmly believe that the relationship and the partnership they formed last year saved America and put us on a path to saving Western civilization. And now this puts that in jeopardy. And so it's not just about the daily policy quibbles, it's about the larger cultural things are at play. So I'm going to have some of this tonight and hope for better days and better skies tomorrow, because I still love them both, and I hate it when mom and dad are fighting.
Go ahead and take.
Yeah, so we'll see how long this goes. And again, they both have big egos, and I understand this, but I don't think it's the end of the world or anything like this. So would I vote for this bill? Yeah, I would. If I was a Republican congressman, just because, this is the best we're going to get. But Elon Musk is right. I mean, we do have a huge problem coming up ahead. So definitely that is the case. So I kind of agree with, I see both their points of view. All right, here's Chuck Schumer.
European lawmakers have defended some of their budget bills, Medicaid reforms, by highlighting preliminary CBO projections of roughly 1.4 million illegal immigrants losing their coverage under state-funded health programs. Is reducing federal Medicaid payments to states that provide coverage to undocumented immigrants a reform that you would support?
The bottom line is this overall bill is so awful. If they want to aim, if they got some specific issues, aim it. Don't just do a meat axe or a chainsaw across the board and cut everything. I don't know if their numbers are accurate. These are GOP numbers, but it doesn't matter.
So first of all, Schumer, he always lies about everything. And this bill is not cutting Medicaid. It's not cutting Medicare. It's not cutting Social Security. It's not cutting defense. It's not cutting really much of anything, which is why Elon Musk is so bad. So Schumer's lying about that. But there was an attempt to cut out illegals. So people that are here illegally, they're criminals. They're not undocumented. They're criminals. They have no right to be here. They should not be on Medicaid. They should be arrested and sent back home. Simple, right? But even the Democrats are pushing back on that. It's just crazy, but that's what it is. All right. So, and then let's hear Jesse. He was trending on X. So let's take a look at this here, what he has to say. I'll watch it with you.
My issue is that the media said that Musk was the co-president. He doesn't look like the co-president anymore. The media said Trump was doing favors for Elon Musk. Well, if you look at this big, beautiful bill, there's no favors for Elon Musk in it at all. Now, the big, beautiful bill, now he's got a beef with it. These are the things that Trump ran on and won on. Wall.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ice skies so you could do mass deportation.
That's good.
Military F-35 ships, pay raises for the troops.
That we can't afford. I disagree with that. We have a way too bloated of a military. Instead of increasing spending on the military, we should drastically cut. And that means we can't fight all these wars for Israel. We can't get in all these proxy wars with Russia. We got to stop all that.
And tax relief for everybody, no tax on tips.
I support that.
These are the things that won him the election. He didn't run on balancing the budget.
Yeah.
No, he didn't run on balancing the budget. That's true. But that doesn't take away the problem that's happening. I mean, we're headed to a cliff. It's just mathematics. And if he's a responsible president, he needs to deal with that.
So this is the priority right now. You have 4 years to balance the budget. Yeah, there's a lot of pork in this thing. There's always a little pork. All right. But this is not a spending bill. This is the signature piece of Donald Trump's second term. This may be the last major piece of legislation Trump ever passes. Well, he might have 3 terms, but for now, we're saying this is it.
Yeah, that is true. He didn't run on the deficit, but at the same time, I think he did bring Elon Musk in, and I think Trump should be aware of the problem. And the problem, again, with the deficit has nothing to do with spending more money on ICE or all that type of stuff. So even if we spend money on ICE, increase it, build the wall, that's trivial amount of money. The problem in the budget is Social Security. That shouldn't be a problem, but the government took the funds from Social Security and they spent it elsewhere, which in private business, it gets you thrown into prison. They embezzled the money. So our government embezzled your Social Security money. When they taxed Social Security from you, they took it from you with a promise that they would save it. So when you retired, you get that money back. But instead, they took your money and they blew it on bullshit, most like illegals and wars for Israel, all that type of stuff. So they should go to prison for that. But anyway, Social Security is a big expense now because of that. Medicare and Medicaid. And again, the healthcare costs are through the roof, and that's a big problem. Those are, I think that's called CMS, Medicaid and Medicare. Those are the biggest expenditures. So the big ones in the United States, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and defense. Everything else is kind of bullshit. money-wise. I mean, I think we should, save where we can, but when you just look at where the money's going, those are those areas. So if you're going to get serious about the deficit, you got to look in these areas: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or defense. And I would argue that you can't cut Social Security now. You could change it for the future, because Social Security and even Medicare were contracts. They were promises given. You give us your money. Well, you don't have a choice. We're going to take it and we're going to save it for you. You can trust us. We'll save it for you, but this is your money. You get it back. They don't have a right to steal that. Right. So that's kind of in a different category. Medicaid, that's well, I would say Social Security, let me back up, is being used for a lot of bullshit stuff that should end. A lot of people are on Social Security are on there for disability and all sorts of nonsense. They shouldn't be on there. And Medicaid, that's supposed to be medical care for poor people. It shouldn't be going to illegals. And we need to drastically cut that too. So, and defense, I think we need to cut that in half. So those are the big ones. And everything else is kind of bullshit. I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about it, but it's kind of, it would be an example in your household budget. Maybe what are your big budget items? I don't know about you, but let's say you have a mortgage. You may have car payments. I don't, but let's say you have car payments, you have insurance, you have food, and then you have your big hitter items, right? And then you have stuff like you may spend, let's say you play a game and the game is online and they charge $15 a month. Well, yeah, you can cut that, but that's not going to really save you. You got to go after the heavy hitter stuff. So that's what's happening into this. Some more stuff on the budget here.
My colleagues say, oh, but Chip, it's the biggest spending decrease in history. Let's be very clear. It is a reduction in future increases of about $1.6 trillion. Yes, that is the biggest amount ever. But guess what? We have sizably more debt and sizably more spending than ever.
So what they're doing, they're playing this game when you may hear that this bill actually decreases spending. No, it doesn't. It just supposedly decreases the rate of the increases. In Washington logic, that's sort of a decrease, right? It'd be like you take your wife shopping, she spends $1,000. Like, oh my God, you spend $1,000. She goes, yeah, but no, not really. I've actually made $1,000 because they were all 50% off. This usually would have been $2,000. So if you think about it, I made $1,000. It's the same type of logic they're using here.
So of course it should be, but it should be more. $1.6 trillion in cuts or future reductions is really about $160 billion a year over 10 years. That's the truth. The truth is our whole budget has grown from about 3.6 trillion a decade ago to 7.2 trillion now. It's doubled. And everybody wants to applaud themselves for $160 billion of reductions and increases. I'm sorry, I don't think that's good enough.
It isn't.
The fact is, our budget, the budget we passed to get the big, beautiful bill through, says that we should be at 6.5 trillion for 2026. But after this bill, if it's passed this way out of the Senate, we'd be at 7.2 trillion. All right, that's a lot of numbers. You want me to tell you back home? The fact of the matter is, unless we have record economic growth for an entire decade, deficits will go up.
This is something that Trump is trying to push that, well, but if we have big growth, that will make our debt not as important. And this is even in your private life, right? So let's say if you have a lot of, that's why it's crazy. You know, do you have a problem with debt? You can't answer that question until I know how much you make. Like if let's say you owe $50,000, are you in trouble? I can't answer that if I don't know your income, if I don't know your assets. If you're unemployed or you work at Starbucks, yeah, you're screwed. You're in trouble. If you're Bill Gates, no, you're not in trouble at all. That's nothing. So it depends on that. And the countries work the same way. So the numbers, like how many trillions by themselves, is not that important. You need to compare it to the wealth of the nation. But the problem is, in order for the deficit to not keep increasing, which is important because we have to borrow more, and eventually we spend more on our interest payments than on anything else. It'll break everything. The only way out of that is you can increase the growth of the economy. But to do that, you'd have to have growth like 6-7% that we haven't seen since the 1960s. We just never seen that much anymore. And I don't think that's realistic.
That's the truth. This bill front loads all of the cost. So for the first 4 years, 26, 27, 28, 29, deficits are up. That is, by the way, on a dynamic basis. You're going to hear a lot of people taking shots at the CBO, and they should. The CBO is biased, the CBO is left-leaning, and the CBO doesn't always get it right. But guess what? No economist ever gets it right. The fact is, we took care of that, at least in part, in the Budget Committee by assuming growth. We assumed economic growth of 2.6%, higher than the last 2 decades average, lower than the historic average. Why does that matter? Because we've already accounted for what you call dynamic scoring, meaning the impact of the tax cuts on revenue.
What he's saying here is when you cut taxes, that tends to grow the economy. You actually bring in more money.
All right, so what does that mean in simple terms? It means that if you look at our analysis, even assuming economic growth and more revenue from that growth, we will still have $400 billion of deficits added to the existing $2 trillion deficit in 2026 because of the bill. Those deficits will go up even more, and it will be another $400 billion.
This guy sounds like a preacher if you've ever been into like a Baptist church.
Or so in 27. 28, we add to the deficits. 29, we add to the deficits. Finally, in 2030, deficits go down. And if you look across the entirety of the 10 years under this bill, you are basically at somewhere around break even on the impact on deficits. Now, again, everybody understand what I'm saying. The deficits of roughly around 1.8 to 2 trillion a year will continue. This bill will adjust taxes and adjust spending, will increase deficits for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then cut deficits in the outer 5 years if you believe that will ever happen. Only in this town do you assume that the good things will happen in 5 years and accept the bad things in the first years. But that's what we're doing.
So that gives the bill is not going to cut the deficit. And as I said, I don't think there's in a way that you can really do that, but that's the situation. Hey, P, recently, this is from Pam Hyde. Recently, there's been many doomsday fish, aka darfish, washing up on the shore in Australia and New Zealand. Usually this occurs before earthquakes or volcanoes. Might be something to watch. Great show. I didn't know that. So a bunch of fish are washing up in Australia. That's a bad omen. Okay, well, we'll have to watch that. Thank you for that. I don't know. We definitely will have a bad omen in 10 or 15 years, but that is the situation there. All right, let's see here some more. Yeah, we'll go over this here. Let me just take a look here. All right. I always feel, part of the problem with this whole discussion is this is probably the most important topic that will impact, because most of you will be alive in 10, 15 years. I hope I still am. And this will really fundamentally just crash the country. And it's not based on politics. It's just based on math, right? This is a serious issue. Elon Musk understands it. A lot of people understand it. But there's a couple of problems. One is boring. There's not some girl with big tits to talk about. It's not about sex or anything like that. It's not about war. It's not about something that's kind of fun. It's about a lot of numbers, which a lot of people get bored with. And then it's in the future. And everyone's like, who cares, 10, 15 years? Let's just focus on today. And I get it. But this is probably the most important thing. And but most people, I don't know, it's a tough one because people, they can see Haitians in your town destroying your neighborhood. That is important to deal with. But the deficit is more theoretical at this point until it isn't. So let's listen to this guy.
Number two, you can bring down government debt, which means you can bring down government interest. And the government today, the federal government today, pays more in interest than we pay for the Department of Defense.
Right, but how much of that is salary?
No, that's just interest on the debt.
Right.
That's just interest on the old debt.
Okay.
We pay like $1.2 billion a year right now, I think is the latest number, which is just interest on debt. It's not paying for any good or service. It's just interest on debt. But again,
what percent?
And interest on debt, those are like treasury bills like China holds, Japan, and private individuals can hold them too.
That is the what of the GDP?
Well, the total government spending is on the order of $7 trillion. Interest payments are like 1.2 trillion, something like that.
1.2 trillion.
I think that's the current number. DOD is 800 billion a year.
So 1.2 trillion.
Just off the top. Yeah, just off the top. And again, no tax, nobody's benefiting from that. It's just interest payments.
That's bananas.
Right. And total GDP is like, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's 20, 30, 40 trillion. It's, it's much larger than that, but like still.
It's enough.
This is a lot of money. And the total accumulated debt is 35 trillion. The total accumulated debt is 35 trillion. And it adds another trillion of accumulated debt every 100 days. Yes.
Oh my God, it hurts my head.
Poor Joe Rogan. I like Joe Rogan, but he probably can't have that conversation very well. But yeah, that's kind of funny. He did look pained. So it's one of those things that we'll have to see what has to see here. Okay. Couple of things that's talking about the debt that even Trump understands this to a degree. The interest payments. See, if too late at the Fed would cut, we would greatly reduce interest rates long and short on debt that is coming due. Biden went mostly short term. There's virtually no inflation anymore. But if it should come back, raise rate to counter. Very simple. He's costing our country a fortune. Borrowing costs should be much lower. So what Trump is saying here, because we have to pay interest on that debt. So the higher the interest rates are, the more we have to pay. And if interest rates should ever go super high, this country will bankrupt way before 2035. It could be 2030 or even earlier. So Trump's trying to keep the interest rates low. But the problem is then you could potentially get inflation. So we're kind of in a bad situation at the moment with this. All right. A couple of other things that happened today. I guess this is good news, a little late though. I guess Doge is still running. It's just not Elon Musk anymore. In a big win for Doge, the Supreme Court ruled they can access sensitive information kept by Social Security Administration while legal proceedings move forward. And so this means that Doge, they can look into Social Security, look for fraud, that type of thing. So I think that's a good thing. But I don't know if it matters much now. And we did get good news. Inflation is down. Let me just show you the graph. So this should help Trump. And this is headline inflation, and core inflation has definitely gone down quite a bit. Ironically, the inflation kind of spiked, I think, was partially due to Trump's first administration when he gave out all those COVID checks, those stimulus checks, and put a lot of money in the system. Biden got the blame for it, and Biden deserves all the blame he gets, but yeah, that's what it is. All right, let's see here. A couple of some political stuff. Lindsey Graham has been in the news for, he decided to he goes to Ukraine all the time, and somehow he went to Ukraine and he ran up a $400,000 hotel bill. I don't know how you run up a hotel bill that high. I have some theories with Lindsey. It could be some extracurricular activities, maybe. But here's some guy they're talking about, Lindsey Graham.
And let me say something about Senator Graham. There will be news coming out in the next couple of months about how he has profited financially off of money that came out of Ukraine, laundered through Latvia, and made its way into his bank account. And now we're talking significant amounts of money. Department of Justice is looking at it.
I'm going to be surprised. Ukraine has been a source of lots of corruption, and both Democrats and Republicans. Lindsey Graham is a neocon. He's, I think, halfway crazy, the stuff he's doing. And so this doesn't surprise me at all. So, yeah, that is what is happening there. And then we had an admission from the Biden administration. This guy pulled this tweet down. I think this is a guy from Hawaii, Tim Wu. And this is a former Biden White House advisor posted this. From the White House policy staff perspective, the real problem with Karine Jean-Pierre, she was that black lesbian lady that was raised in France, was that she was kind of dumb. You think? No interest in understanding harder topics, just gave random incoherent answers on policy. Yeah, a lot of them do that. They just give a word salad. Yeah, obviously we could watch her. She was stupid. Now, she didn't have dementia like Joe Biden. She was just naturally dumb. She was definitely a DEI position, and it showed. It definitely showed. And let's see here. A couple other things. We had a good job number, so this is good for Trump on that. That came out today. The media was predicting gloom and doom. So Friday's job report likely will show hiring cooled in May. Here's what to expect. And then they had to do the CNBC had to say, U.S. payrolls increased 139,000 in May, more than expected. So jobs, at least the official count, I take that with a grain of salt, but it looks like it's done better than it projected. So definitely that is a big win for Trump on that. Let's see here. We had Greta I'm not a big fan of Greta. She's a Swedish girl that dropped out of high school, actually. Then she became a climate change expert or whatever. They're killing the polar bears. And now she's got onto this Gaza stuff. And she was interviewed because she's taking this boat. They're sailing to Gaza to feed the Palestinians because the Israelis are trying to starve them out. I guess they figure they did it during the Holodomor in Ukraine. So, hey, it's been 100 years ago. Let's do that again. So they're trying to do a genocide, and Greta's going there to feed them. Here she is.
We're speaking to you from the United States, where the South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham wrote on X, "Hope Greta and her friends can swim." Your response?
We can swim very well. It says a lot about their priorities that in the face of genocide and systematic starvation of 2 million people, lawmakers, elected officials whose responsibility it should be to serve the people and to protect the people, that they, rather than ending their complicity in genocide and the mass slaughtering of civilians, are focusing on mocking people who are at least trying to do their bits. I think that says everything we need to know about their priorities.
And finally, your message to Palestinians who perhaps have read about or heard about your voyage or waiting your arrival. What is your message to them?
My message to them would be that we stand behind you in every step of the way. We are standing in solidarity with you. We see you. And I am also my deepest apologies on behalf of the outside world, especially the Western world, that we continue to betray you and that more people are not stepping up. But I promise that at least we here will try our very best.
So, I mean, I don't like Greta, but at the same time, it's ridiculous threatening to murder a girl. I mean, she's not trying to start a war. She's just her little ship there to try to feed people. and Lindsey Graham is threatening to murder her. It would be murder. And again, I'm not a big fan of the Palestinians. I do not want them in my country, but I don't want to fund Israel to kill them. That's the problem I have with that. So yeah, that really sucks. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of Greta, but what she's doing there, I don't think she deserves to die. How much do you feel Lindsey Graham is lying here? This is Rowhouse. Thank you. Let's take a look at this. And thank you for the rant. I appreciate that.
The Graham bill on putting high tariffs on China.
I haven't looked at it, but they'll be guided by me. That's the way it's supposed to be. They're going to be guided by me. No, I haven't looked at it. It's a bill on sanctions, etc. I'm a very quick study. At the right time, I'll do what I want to do. But it could very well be okay. I'll have to see. But they're waiting for me to decide on what to do, and I'll know maybe very soon. It's a harsh bill. Yeah, very harsh.
Let me take a look at this here. Let me just bring this down here. This was let me look at the Lindsey Graham, what he said here. Just a second. So there's Lindsey Graham. He, just so you know, he's who knows, based on what we saw in that video, I don't know if it's true. I do know he spent $400,000. Well, he didn't spend it. You guys paid for his hotels in Ukraine. And that maybe he used that mini bar too much. You can't use the mini bar, Lindsey. That's too expensive. Never open that thing. So he's probably just pulling stuff out of the mini bar, and he ran up a $400,000 tab. That or something. But the other guys, there's allegations that he's being bribed. I want to doubt it. I don't know though. But Lindsey Graham, what he's trying to do is trying to get us in war with Russia. And he wants more bone-crushing sanctions on Russia, which really don't matter anymore because Russia doesn't really do much trade with us because of all the sanctions right now. They trade with China and India and half the world. The only thing that we could do is start to try to attack countries. So like China, if you trade with Russia, we're going to attack you, China, or put sanctions on you. And that would be a disaster. Okay, Lindsey Graham. I share President Donald Trump and Mert's view that this brutal war between Russia and Ukraine needs to end now. In that regard, I've been working in a bipartisan fashion to give the President Trump more tools when it comes to Russia and those who prop up Putin's war machine by buying cheap oil and gas. So this, I think he means India and China. They buy oil and gas from Russia. I have coordinated closely with the White House in this endeavor from day one. I believe President Trump is the right person and maybe only the person. He's kissing Trump's ass there because the book on Trump is he's got a big ego and you got to kiss his ass, who can end this brutal war. And I'm trying to help that noble effort. Well, the problem is Lindsey Graham, his idea of ending the war is Russia's complete surrender. And the problem with that is Russia's winning the war. So there's a little problem there. Lindsey Graham is up to no good. I hope Trump stays away from him. Mark Levin, is that Levin or Levin? A neocon speaking about Tucker Carlson. Ramsey view to this feud. Okay, let's take a look at Mark here. He burps again. Yes, I know. Carlson has become a loathsome ass who's increasingly unhinged and pathetic. I think this is regard. Tucker Carlson believes we should put American first. Levin, he supports his ethno-state of Israel. Our nation's enemies love him, as do certain vile and weird conspiracy theories he promotes. I will address him again in his barely literate and utterly incoherent social media ramblings on radio tonight. But the good news is the more he talks and writes, the less relevant and more poisonous he becomes. And Mark Levin is sort of fulfilling the trope that he cares more about Israel than America, and I think that's obvious he does. And if you don't put Israel first, you're a loathsome ass. So I don't really care about that, but not a surprise there. So thank you, Ross, on that. I do appreciate that. All right, let's see here. Let me see if I got everything. And I'm sorry for the little, had a little technical glitch. The computer hanged up, so I had a reboot, but I think it's, okay, there's my Powerchats. It's my Streamelements. Let me make sure I got everything here. All right, so that's good. I think we're done. I think I'm going to wrap up. And we will have a show on Monday, the Ramsey Paul Show at 11. Looking forward to that. And thank you guys so much for being here. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.